Hello there, Nick Vail here, as always, helping you live your best financial life. Thanks for joining us again for another video in our Ask an Expert series. You know, anytime I'm helping someone live their best financial life, there often comes questions that I need to sort of outsource to someone that is an expert in the field that I am not. And in many cases, that's property and casualty insurance. So today we have Steve Berlin with Hoffman Insurance Group joining us. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time and expertise. As always, I've sent many of my clients to Steve, and he always does right by them, and they always have great things to say. So we really appreciate your expertise, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, you're a property and casualty insurance agent, licensed insurance expert. Can you kind of touch on what that really means? What is liability insurance, and do I need it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, liability insurance sounds like a big fancy term. The thing is, we all actually have it without knowing it. Auto insurance, the state requires you to have auto insurance so that you have liability protection on your homeowner's insurance or your renter's insurance policy. All of those, even if you didn't know you bought it, you bought a certain amount of personal liability coverage. What that liability simply means is that if you get sued because you injured someone or you hurt their reputation or you damaged their property, that liability is so that when they sue you, it's not going to have to come out of your pocket. It's going to come out of the insurance company's pocket. So without knowing it, you made a good decision by buying that auto insurance or the renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance. They all come with minimum limits on their policy.
Okay, yeah, good deal. I mean, that makes sense, right? Everybody sees on the commercials that they need to have it, but sometimes it's hard to kind of conceptualize all that. So how do I know how much I really need?
Yeah, so the minimum amounts that companies sell and that the state requires you to have for auto insurance, let's say, they're really not going to take care of virtually anyone. Anyone who has any sort of even small amount of wealth, auto insurance, the minimum liability you need to have is $25,000. If you think about your last visit to the doctor, your last serious medical bill, I know, good gravy, they're just through the roof, the bills you can accumulate in a hospital. And so imagine if you crashed into your car to another person and put them in the hospital. A lot of the people watching the video have probably been in a serious accident before, and maybe you've gotten the actual bill before the insurance kicked in and you saw those costs. You're so happy you had health insurance at that point or the other person's auto insurance. But that $25,000 is not really going to scratch the surface of the real amount you would need if you got sued. We had a client a few years back hit a bicyclist with his car. He wasn't even going very fast, but before the end of the day, she had 2 brain surgeries she needed.
Oh my gosh.
So $25,000 wasn't going to do anything on that policy. We typically recommend as a minimum for just about anyone at least having $250,000, because when you exhaust that amount, that limit, they're going to come after your own pocket. And there's no real guidebook as to say what they can't take from you at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, 25,000 to your point, I can't even, I mean, that would go so quickly. You know, I just think of any time I've ever been to the doctor, it feels like if I blow my nose, it's like $40. So I can only imagine how quickly that would
go.
It's
like $100. It's crazy the cost for things.
Yeah.
At the
Okay.
hospital.
Yeah. I mean, so in the thought of helping people live their best financial life, obviously bare minimums aren't getting that done. So I know one of the things that you've helped many of my clients with, and when we are helping people amass wealth, one of the things that we often look for is, well, at least I'll put it this way. We always say, hey, there's 3 ways people think they're going to get rich, right? One is through an inheritance. You know, maybe that's potential for some people, but not for everyone. 2 is hitting the lottery. I mean, good luck, you know, or 3 is suing you. So to your point, you know, you need that liability insurance. And so the next step would be a personal umbrella policy. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And many more people need personal umbrella policies than think they do. it's real popular in our culture to say, no, I'm middle class. I'm not rich. I don't need that. But we're all probably wealthier than we would say out in public we are. And the idea is not so much that you have loads of money, but even if I think you have a lot of money, if I see you driving a nice car and you're the one that hits me, I might think, he's got something that I could get. I might play this injury up a little bit more than maybe I need to, or maybe you legitimately injured me. And I think, boy, he's driving that 2021 Chevy Traverse or whatever it is. It's a nice new car. We're going to see what we can get here. And so what an umbrella policy does is that, let's say you had $250,000 of liability protection on your auto policy. Typical umbrella policy is going to add an extra $1 million of protection on top of that auto policy. So now you injure me severely, maybe you total my car. That 1.25 million now is going to cover all that. And an umbrella policy is really neat. So the way I explain this to clients is, let's say you've got a little car and a little home. An umbrella policy covers over the liability on both of those policies. And so on your home policy, you may have $300,000 or $500,000 of personal liability. Let's say your kid throws a pencil across the classroom and it pokes his classmate in the eye. If that's a serious injury, maybe he goes blind, he's blind the rest of his life, and his parents decide to sue you for that, which they would be fully entitled to do. Your liability on your homeowner's policy is going to pay that out. You would be panicked all night, but the thing is, the insurance company's already got you taken care of. But is that 300 or 500,000 going to be enough for this kid who's not going to spend the next 60 years with sight in only one of his eyes? I mean, these are all things we can't control. They're most of them are really out of our control. And so an umbrella policy then is going to kick in 1 million over the 300,000. And so even if you're not a millionaire, if you've got $100,000 to your name, your net worth, and maybe you only had 500,000 in liability, but my injuries are 600,000, I could potentially get that $100,000. So it's not necessarily you have to be a millionaire to need $1 million of liability coverage. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. Yeah. So it would kind of first fall on either your homeowners or your auto in certain cases, and then that's when you get the added protection of the full umbrella amount, whatever you decide that amount needs to be. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So most people come in, they want a regular standard auto policy. We try to encourage them to get higher limits. A standard home policy, we try to encourage them to get higher liability limits. And then there's a few key words that I'm looking for to suggest to someone that they would need an umbrella policy, because to be honest, not everyone needs it. If you are 21 years old and you're renting an apartment, you don't have two dimes to rub together, you're just trying to make it. That's not really an expensive. You want one, we'll sell you one, but you don't really probably justify that amount of liability coverage. However, if you own a home, as soon as you own a home, the target on your back for me to sue you is just getting bigger. It's a sign of wealth. And then there's other triggers that make me think you may want to at least consider this, especially for the negligible cost of an umbrella policy. When we say $1 million policy, and you can actually buy them all the way up to $5 million for people, $5 million for the people who have legitimate wealth. A lot of times you're talking about $150, $250 a year, and you get a discount on your auto and home insurance policy. So the net cost many times is under $200 a year. It's dirt cheap for the amount of protection you're getting.
That amount of protection, the peace of mind that comes with it, that, your hard-earned wealth that could have taken 20, 30, 40 years to amass is all of a sudden gone in an instant because of one accident, right? So
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times clients who are wealthy because they're picky about what they're spending their money on. So sometimes they can be the most difficult to convince, but a lot of times if they understand that wealth, and once they realize, this could be gone in a heartbeat through no real wrongdoing of my own, they get that, boy, an umbrella policy makes a lot of financial sense. Okay. And so back to what I was saying, the few keywords I'm looking for are, if you've got a 16, 17, 18-year-old driver, your risk for getting a large lawsuit filed against you is a lot higher because they're the ones that are going to get in the accident. If you have a swimming pool, we think of just fun when we think of pool party. My sick insurance brain thinks of, oh boy, I hope nobody gets hurt in that pool.
Right.
Kids, pool, even something like a trampoline. Now, I know I was doing crazy back twist aerial axles on, triple whatever when I was a kid, front flips, but and somehow I'm okay. But nowadays kids just seem to get hurt on those things, so a pond in front of your house, youthful drivers, I mentioned that. Wealth, that's the real big one. You start investing money and you start getting up into six figures. 250,000 is typically the limit, where we see a lot of our trusted financial advisors like you recommend. That's when you really need to start considering an umbrella policy just based on wealth and not based on the risk side of things, which is like the youthful driver or the swimming pool or the trampoline, or a lot of land is another one that people think of, because someone can come on your land, get hurt, and you didn't have a trespassing sign posted, no trespassing sign, and you could get sued. And that happens all the time.
I've never thought about it. I've never thought about the land side of things. That is a great point. Yeah. So I mean, and for the cost,
my goal is to
right?
scare you. Right?
Yeah, it's working. It's working. We have a pond behind our house, so luckily we do have umbrella insurance. So,
my man.
But yeah, so I guess the long and short of it is, I guess, for the cost being as flexible as it is, right? You said you can cover all these different things, whether it's because you have a lot of wealth or because, I think I read a story years ago where Tom Hanks' son was, to your point, was 16, got into a fairly minor fender bender, but somebody said, Hanks, oh, interesting. They tried to sue him for like $6 million or something. This is how it works, right? This is how it happens. So,
yep.
So, well, thank you so much for your expertise and sharing that with us. I know we are constantly trying to get our clients to understand the value of, especially the umbrella, and not going with the lowest cost just because, with very low limits. If you're going to live your best financial life, you also have to protect what you've built. So I appreciate your expertise. Any final words for us? How can people get in touch with you? Who do you work with?
Yeah, well, I think you'll put my contact information on the screen. I appreciate that. I'm with Hoffman Insurance Group in Granger, Indiana, and we're a full lines independent insurance agency. We have various companies. We shop you out to find you basically the best deal. And all of our companies are A-rated. And if you have any questions, though, drop me a line or send me an email. I'd be happy to at least be a resource for you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. We really appreciate it. I know that I can speak from experience that I've sent many of our clients your way, and they always have great things to say, and they always feel well taken care of and have glowing reviews. So we really appreciate your time today and every time we send someone your way.
Well, thanks, Nick. God bless you, man. I appreciate you having me on today.
Back at you. Appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Bye. You too.